Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Continuing with Totally Not Mark's One Piece reviews. Amazon Lily and Impel Down. Impel Down is definitely one of my favourites, like, so far. It just, the way that they managed to get these two story arcs told with just Luffy out of the whole Straw Hat crew, and how they use past bad guys to just create absolutely amazing, like, OMG moments. Just boss, you turn a page, there's another bad guy helping Luffy. Turn a page, there's another bad guy helping Luffy. Turn a page, there's two bad guys they've never met each other helping. Oh my god, it's just, I love it. Impel Down was just absolutely one hell of, like, a proper exciting, like, whoa. And Amazon Lily, not as amazing, but kind of important. We meet one of the 7 warlords, Boa Hancock. Funny moments with her and Luffy after the fact. But let's see what Totally Not Mark has to say on these two story arcs, shall we?
I don't know how Oda does it, but he seems to more often than not make the absolute most out of every situation he places his characters.
Definitely, it's never a waste.
Every encounter and every single set piece serves the story and makes
it's all
so
just important, yeah.
Interesting and fun to read through. After the heartbreaking filled excitement the last arc ended, I was sort of anxious to see how the narrative was going to progress. But
yeah.
it just keeps getting better.
It does.
From the vibrant vistas of
It
Amazon
does.
Lily to the cramped corridors of
Impel Down, so good.
Mixed with the exemplary storytelling Oda flexes on chapter by chapter is a feast for the eyes and the mind. And in this video, I will be attempting to describe how unbelievably exciting and fantastic
having these guys come back into it was so cool.
I'm Totally Not Mark, and these are my first impressions on, thoughts of, and review for the intensely interesting and masterfully composed Amazon Lily and
Impel Down. Alright!
Last week, it came to my attention that I might have forgotten to mention a certain character. And yeah, I get it, he's important. Okay, so
his Devil Fruit power is so OP.
And while he was revealed, yes, we also met this guy, and
really?
This happened.
Yeah.
So I was a little preoccupied with stuff that was immediately happening, and more often than not, I couldn't care less about how a character looks or how flashy they really are. And in this case, the pun is absolutely intended. But you guys wanted me to say something, so here it is. The angry Admiral Man enters the chat while riding a cannonball, which is a cool visual.
It's kind of cool.
Reminiscent of Tao from Dragon Ball that I enjoyed. He did fight with the supernovas for a bit, but I have no idea how strong they are relative to each other. So
true. We only got introduced to them.
Or them from that particular exchange. We learn about his Devil Fruit ability, which is pretty flashy.
It's
pun intended again. Both he and
so ridiculous.
trait of being quite nonchalant, which does well to establish a cerertain.
He can fire lightning, can't he? Transport into. Oh, it's not lightning, but it's like, because lightning is thingy's power from Amazon, from Skypiea.
But the fact remains, at this point in the story, they are only just being introduced. If they become something significant in the future, I'll mention them then.
Fair enough,
Until
yeah.
such time they directly influence the story beyond showing up and fighting, I'll be sure to discuss them in more detail. I mean, for instance, when I met Blackbeard for the very first time, I almost didn't mention him in my script.
It didn't seem important, yeah.
Design. Oda, as a writer, plants tons of seeds.
Yeah, and they just seem so insignificant at first, and then later on you're like,
that the supernovas are significant, but while writing the video last week, I didn't have anything substantial to say about.
No, you just know what their abilities are, and that's it, yeah.
The events. If certain characters don't impact the story enough or strike my fancy as much as I want them to, then I just won't talk about them. And it's nothing to do with the character, it's just that I don't have anything to say necessarily about them in that moment.
That's fair enough.
If they show up later, I will be sure to mention
War,
them.
I think, is going to have a big... You can just tell him his character design that, like, was or something. That whole, like, poor thing stopping him falling was like, whoa! He was meant to go there.
Surrounding Luffy was, I found, uniquely engaging. And once I finished what this arc had to offer, I was very
I wasn't looking forward to reading this, and it was alright.
Not just because it exposes some very interesting and eye-opening lore that I will most definitely be discussing later in this video, but it also provided an emotionally rich patch of respite amidst this turbulent saga we currently find ourselves in. Deciding to explore Luffy's emotional state, the whereabouts of the crew, and his ultimate plan to circumvent his predicaments, and to ultimately decide he needs to save his brother from
save Ace
first. For the first time since the very first chapters, Luffy is very much alone, having cultivated an endearing and loving crew of friends to surround himself with against all odds.
And now he's by himself, he's on his own.
This arc opens with Luffy flying through the air before landing deep in the jungle of Amazon Lily, a brand new
That poor
island,
Prince Dead important though to show that he's meant to go there though.
which, firstly, I would like to question the allegiance of Kuma as a warlord of the sea, or if he is in fact doing what he was told to do by sending him there. Maybe it's important for Luffy and the crew to remain alive, but to be very, very
Isn't it to do with Dragon's
first opening chapters
big master plan?
Luffy is presented with on this unfamiliar island that we, or at least I, got a very different feeling while going through it. There's a sort of off-balance and desperate feeling that paints Luffy's every effort, and that's one of the strongest attributes this arc has working in its favor, its goal. This story acts as an immediate continuation to the horrific...
We get an introduction to Luffy having potential to use Haki in this, don't we, as well?
Find and regroup with his crew with an incredibly lonely air to the occasion towards the beginning. And the notion of being able to regroup with his friends is made all the more possible due to one fantastic mechanic being brought back to light: the life papers in his possession.
Of course, yes, forgot about that. Yeah.
And Ace's directly towards his location in Impel Down.
It's burning.
Right off the bat, we are made aware of the dilemma Luffy faces. Quite literally, he needs to choose which path to follow, and while initially it's obvious, as he at this point doesn't see the urgency to help out his brother Ace, but as the story progresses, it becomes abundantly clear that
that is what he has to do.
Yeah. Leads him back to his friends just yet, but instead needs to deal with his family. And it's down this path through both this arc, Amazon Lily, and Impel Down thereafter, that we begin learning more and more about Luffy's family and his past. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Yeah, let's cover Amazon Lily. All the mushrooms.
We see Luffy incapacitate himself by eating the wrong sort of mushroom, leading him to be discovered by a group of women native to this
And
island.
he has one on his pee-pee.
Back to their village, thinking that he too was a woman. However, once they removed the last mushroom from his body, to their
My
surprise,
God, there's a man. My God.
I'm not exactly sure if this is relevant here, but while I was learning about and being exposed to the culture and customs of this island's tribe, I noticed that their currency was gold, G-O-L.
Oh.
Which is the first time I noticed something having the same word or name as a key character. Maybe it has some significance moving forward regarding Roger, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It just
I didn't even clock onto that. That's kind of cool.
Subtle character writing on display once Luffy regains consciousness within the tribe.
Whoa, he's
thing
naked.
asked about once he comes to is about his friends, and the second is his hat.
Yeah, that hat's so important. I can't wait to find out why.
As a character that I really enjoyed when I noticed it. However, once he wakes up in a confusion, he starts demanding information before breaking out, taking with
Run
him
away.
the girl who replaced the clothes he was wearing with these new ones. These nice flowery new ones. Specifically, he takes her because she has the life paper he needs to find where he needs to go next, which is a beautiful means of interweaving the plot with the characters to force them into believable circumstances.
Yeah, like they have to be there.
About this girl without it feeling forced. This arc works ridiculously well
It does.
in that regard too. The motivations, decisions, and interactions that take place therein feel so
And the way that Luffy makes friends with Bo Hancock and the sisters
there are so few things to
through the fight,
because
he shows how nice he is there as well. It's like, whoa.
For the most part, being the only character that was known of before going into this. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that this would mean that this arc would feel like a sort of filler.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be very filler-esque feeling, but it's not.
This is one of the best setup arcs in the entire series. And during these innocent interactions,
We even get like stuff that helps us understand the whole Fishman Island stuff later on in this as well, don't we?
She informs Luffy of the location Ace now finds himself in, how the island they are on,
Because like Bo was a slave, wasn't she?
one of the only ways off the island
She
is on
mentions
a
Tiger,
particular
and then
ship.
Tiger's a big deal in the Fishman Island stuff. The way she looks down on people.
This extravagant character becomes the focus of a chapter or two when a vice admiral that goes by the name of Momongo arrives to summon Hancock to Marineford. Apparently, all the warlords of the sea are expected to be on hand for Ace's execution, and those
Because
that
things
do
gonna
not
go
attend
down.
will have their titles revoked. So, yeah, she's a warlord of the sea apparently,
Yep, that's
which
cool.
is awesome, and her introduction in this scene is fittingly impactful. Flat out refuses
Turns everyone to
fight
stone.
the war and informs the Vice Admiral that not only will she keep her title and privileges, but she will also take his cargo and treasure. Which, I mean, come on, it's a pretty metal move. Through this interaction, it's also revealed that she has the devil fruit ability to turn those that find her attractive to stone. The Vice Admiral prevents this from happening, however, by stabbing his own hand. Getting major
Metal.
Chad vibes from this. But he lived just 2 days, and after that, if she doesn't comply, her titles and position will be revoked. In the meantime, however, he will wait.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going without, like, you.
Boa Hancock is the leader of this island of women, and along with her two sisters, they are seen as the three higher-ups of this civilization. And if Luffy wants to get off this rock, he needs her ship and help. Which leads to a funny character moment for Luffy, wherein he climbs to the top of the tallest building because, and I quote, "That's where important people are," before falling through
The logic is there.
Of Hancock, where he gets a glimpse of her back. And I should also explain that no one can see her back due to the apparent presence of a Gorgon's eye that would turn out
apparently,
to
like,
see it
they will
to stone
turn
immediately.
stone, yeah.
But interestingly, Luffy recognizes it, and it's not a Gorgon's eye. However, in all this confusion and shock, Hancock tries to turn him to stone, but
Don't work.
it has zero effect on Luffy, which is a fun bit of character writing because he doesn't find her attractive at all, unlike literally everyone. Else in this world.
Everyone.
But easily the most interesting and eye-opening part of this arc for me has to be this scene.
The Haki. Yeah, that's the first time we get to see him using it.
This changes everything. Haki has been hinted at throughout this series, but what Luffy demonstrated here, shutting down a crowd of people, is something I've only seen with Shanks before.
Yeah, when he walks through.
Which leads me down all sorts of interesting rabbit holes that might be worth exploring in predicting the future and recontextualizing the past events of the series.
Yeah, like he just shown Rayleigh to this.
The faces off against in this battle to the death have variations of the Haki power. But in this moment of stress, he activates within himself a power that, according to Hancock, is an incredibly rare power, only seen maybe once in millions of people. This particular power is referred to by them as the Haki of the Supreme King, which, I mean...
Who's that?
Here's my theory on this. Put on your speculation hats.
Here we go. Mark speculation.
This civilization of women on this island refer to devil fruit abilities as cursed powers. They don't know it, so they have their different terminology for various things. What if the Haki of the Supreme King is actually King of the Pirates? And what if Goldie Roger had this exact same ability, or trait, that we're not necessarily aware of yet? Regardless, what makes this interesting is that it perhaps gives reason as to why Shanks found himself hanging around Luffy for years and years.
Maybe
Goldie Roger knew that Luffy would be important to protect. I mean, he's referred to as the future sometimes in this story, but for someone like Shanks to give up his arm to protect him...
Yeah, and he does say it's just an arm.
Interesting move, not just because Luffy could be very important, but also because surely Shanks could have easily taken out that sea monster that did that to his arm. Maybe he knew that this would motivate Luffy to take on the path that he did. Or perhaps Luffy has another power that nullifies the Haki of other users. I mean, it was a stressful incident for him, and I haven't even touched on the likelihood of Haki being used on the blade of someone like Hawkeye. We already learned that Haki can coat the outside of weapons in this story too, but whatever, I'm getting a little lost in the weeds here, so let's move on before
it's dead easy to speculate on One Piece as you're reading it, isn't it? Because there's so much going on.
This story is how subtle it is when it comes to informing us of Luffy's current predicament and mindset. Throughout his time in Amazon Lily, he's found himself in various circumstances where he misses individual crew members. Not just from a friendship point of view, but also a utilitarian point of view. Painting for us a much more solemn picture of Luffy's predicament, while also reinforcing the notion that he's only here because of the crew he built around him.
Amazing.
All of their strengths in conjunction with his own to get where they did today. And so, while stumbling and bouncing around from place to place in Amazon Lily, he finds himself eating bad food that Sanji could have prevented. He finds himself failing to build a means of sailing away that Frankie could have provided.
So yeah, it shows that, like, yeah, that's cool, the crew are necessary.
Because Nami's navigation is something that he cannot do himself. And even when faced with hurt or injured friends in this story, he makes mention that Chopper would be invaluable in this instance. These are really nice bits of subtle emotional writing that keeps the crew at the forefront of our minds and puts into perspective for us how much they mean for him.
Yeah, they're dead important. They're really important.
Speaking of emotional, this story packed a few of those too. For such a short tale, it does well in establishing characters to care about while hinging it all on our...
And we've just met the Celestial Dragons, so we're very aware of what they're like.
The main point of contention in this arc comes as Luffy fights the two Snake Sisters after Hancock turned Luffy's friend and the other two tribeswomen to stone, after they vouched for him and his good intentions. So once Luffy wins the fight, while also protecting the marks on their backs from the audience.
Yeah, they don't want them to see,
not only the sisters he's fighting in their places, but also puts Hancock in a really difficult situation. As explained within her backstory, she finds it incredibly hard to trust most people, specifically men, which, once we do hear her story is understandable given what she's gone through. And before I get any comments about it, I know I'm not mentioning Fisher Tiger. There's just too much stuff to go over.
Yeah.
In your instance, her backstory was really interesting. But essentially, she and her sisters, as well as thousands of slaves, were freed by someone that climbed the red line with his bare hands, and that person was called
Fisher Tiger.
I have no idea who this person is, and I certainly have
Fishman
no
Island
idea
will
what
definitely have
implications he might have for the story.
bigger insight into that.
One last effort to expose Luffy as a selfish person concerned with only his own goals, she offers him a dilemma. Either she can take him to where he needs to go to save his brother, or she can return those women who
And he just straight away says turn him back then.
back to normal. And after an entire arc of following Luffy experience what it's like to be alone, isolated from his comrades, he chooses without hesitation and with a relieved smile on his face for her to save the three women. And the very fact that that was such a non-issue for Luffy honestly had me welling up while I was reading.
Yeah, it's nice. It's dead nice. It's like, oh, you're such a dude.
It's that very aspect of Luffy's identity that rather ironically causes Hancock to become infatuated with them as a love interest, leading her to
She's so
stow away the naval
into
vessel to facilitate
Luffy.
his rescue of Ace in
Impel Down. I love this song. It's so good. Oh, mate, Buggy coming back as well.
Despite this, it's actually an incredibly simple story filled to bursting with character, compelling
So
themes, and a
much
very real
happens.
sense of tension and dread that builds up until the very end, wherein it meets a very satisfying crescendo.
Oh,
Not
Jimbo.
crescendo. That's next week. But as I said, this arc is incredibly dense and detailed, so in order to protect my sanity, I've decided to split it up into 4 sections. So let's get it. Section 1, getting to Ace.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes, the Impel Down arc of One Piece is a fully realized prison break story, during which Oda, as per the usual, establishes the area by way of maps, careful
Yeah, like we
and
get a good
brute
understanding
force.
of
And
how
what I mean by
dangerous it is as they
brute
progress.
force ends up causing so much trouble in this damn building that everything gets thrown
It's
out.
amazing. So
And
much
of course,
chaos.
Luffy accumulates to his side during this jailbreak. And trust me, by the time this arc is over, you'll be able to draw a detailed image of this place with 99% accuracy without even popping a reference.
So
well, maybe
brilliant.
that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but the point still stands. Stuff goes down.
It
in this
does.
arc.
Stuff does go down.
Figuratively, because they're literally going down. Never mind.
Yep.
And what makes
Okay,
this
to
prison
the
break
5th floor.
nigh impossible to pull off are these factors that we've been aware of from the very beginning of the story. It is, much like the Amazon Lily arc, situated on the calm belt surrounded by Neptunians, behind the biggest doors I've ever seen, ever.
Because they managed to get there, don't they? By Amazon Lily says she wants to go to Impel Down to see Ace on the way.
Oh, and
Luffy just
that the
gets
entire
off.
facility is underwater. You know, water, the thing devil fruit wielders can't find themselves in. Yeah, well, that's all around it. And what's more is that Ace is at the very bottom. And
Well, he's not.
all of these
He's
mechanics
not.
have been
He's on the
understood
5th
by us
floor.
since
The
very
6th floor is the
beginning
very
or around
bottom.
therein, but have never been used all in conjunction with one another to create
There's
such
one
an
floor
integral
lower.
fortress for Luffy to infiltrate. But maybe my favorite aspect of the beginning is the
Isn't
nature
there?
of
I'm
how
right, aren't I?
Luffy gained entry into Impel Down.
Ace is on the 5th floor,
This is, of
and then
course,
the
a
really, really,
maximum
really bad
security
people are on the
prison built to
6th,
contain some
which
of the most
Blackbeard,
dangerous people
like,
in the world. It's
3.
never been broken into, and certainly no one has escaped. And I just love this because the only reason Luffy can break into this place successfully is by being a truly good person. He was a truly, truly good person to Hancock, convincing her to escort him by way of giving him entrance to the building in the first place. The prison is for dangerous and evil people. Luffy is neither of those things. I love that someone with those qualities created the very first blemish in the facility's history.
Yeah.
As he separates from Hancock, Luffy begins what ends up being one of the most physically taxing... Actually, no, scratch that. This is 100% the most physically taxing experience he has
I
ever had to
love
deal
it when
with
you
since
see
the
him
story
working
began.
with these
The
guys.
facility is multi-layered, with each subsequent deeper layer housing more and more dangerous personnel with increasingly harsh qualities. For instance, level 1 has a forest made entirely of pointy things,
Yeah.
while lower levels have, well, pretty much hell, which, you know, not ideal. But as it
Not
happens,
ideal.
on his way through all of these floors, he meets quite a few faces from the past to help him in his endeavor. On level 1, Luffy hooks up with, and get this, Buggy the freaking Clown,
Amazing.
which was so cool to see, and to be honest, it offered a lot in the way of comedy. With this panel having me in stitches while reading, I'll let you be the ones to read that if you want, but I just loved it.
Do you remember when I did that?
It works
No.
now because you understand how small of a player Buggy is in the grand scheme of things. Or is he? And after
Yeah, it does kind of,
they
like,
reach more and more
throw
faces
some
who
questions in at the end.
have
It's like, is he
joined his
gonna...
cause, with level 1 and 2 offering up Buggy, as I said, and Mr. 3, if you believe it, and it's in these scenes with Luffy, Mr. 3, and Buggy that some of the best comedic moments are on display. Buggy had the intention of only taking Luffy as far as the entrance in exchange for an important armband that Nami gave him.
Yeah.
But no matter what Buggy and ultimately Mr. 3 do, they always find themselves unintentionally following Luffy.
Yeah, they're constantly like, wait, we didn't need to come this far.
Luffy plunges himself further and further into the hellish chambers of this increasingly more dangerous Impel Down, coming face to face with tons of security and Blueberry, not to mention
beasts
the
as well.
beasts and the warden of the facility, but more on him later. First, we got to see this guy.
Yay! Yay! Bon Clay!
For One Piece's best boy, the charming, the beautiful Bon Clay. And to be honest, this section of the story had ingenious uses for Buggy, Mr. 3, and of course, Bon Clay, both comedically and narratively, providing so much entertainment and substance to the overall story, creating along the way a very different and unique team for Luffy to surround himself with, which again, only happens because of who Luffy is as a character.
We get Crocodile, we get Jinbei, we get
wanting to follow his lead, which on its own is a nice touch.
She has 2 of the 7 warlords with him. It's like, what?
It's a nice change of pace seeing how all of these new powers bounce off each other.
Yeah.
The various imposing and intense challenges that Impel Down provides them, with curious moments where Luffy's Haki might have even been used a number of times against animals in the building. So much is happening, I don't even know how to contain myself or process it. Oh, and they take down a Minotaur that looks kind of like a cow too. But no battle was more imposing or brutal than Luffy's battle with
Oh my god, with the warden.
Level 4.
So he just poisons everyone, doesn't he?
This fight is hard to watch.
It's very hard because it's very one-sided.
This warden Magellan seems like a very reasonable and likable character. So, given my understanding of this world now, there are good and bad folks on both sides, it seems. Aside from the world government, who seem to be the most shady and
that's the weird one. It's like, what are they doing, man?
I've met anyone from their side that's actually not just a really bad or sketchy individual. The Navy has tons of good characters like Garp and Smoker, but also contains some
Smoker's class, love Smoker.
I'm unsure of yet. The more I read One Piece, the more it starts to feel like good Game of Thrones, only no one really dies, or maybe I'm speaking too soon, I don't know. The devil fruit ability of Magellan happens to be that of poison, and in combat with Luffy, despite his best efforts, leaves him for dead. Which highlights another aspect of One Piece I utterly adore. Luffy loses on a semi-regular basis. Like, he can actually lose in
And then learns from it, and that, it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I like seeing it's not like just, you know, main character just powering through.
For the most part, Ace hasn't played a massive role in the main story until the saga. Instead, he sort of appeared sporadically throughout the manga during specific key instances wherein he acted as a measuring stick for Luffy, an incredibly flashy character, and a component that served to remind me that all of the characters involved in the story are active during and after their time on screen or in the main narrative. But as soon as Blackbeard apprehended him and turned him in to become a warlord of the sea, Ace has become a much more important character in the story, one that now acts and main goal of the plot. And to be honest, Ace
What was that? There's something wrong with the...
I don't really know too much about yet, but what I do love about him is what he means as being a
sound
plot
then,
device. He is the perfect intersection of all the main parties involved in this epic power struggle for supremacy over the oceans. There's the Navy that have him in shackles and have a vested interest in taking him down. There are the revolutionaries led by his father, Monkey D. Dragon, and of course Whitebeard, whom he worked under for a very long time. And because of him acting as a point of interest for all of these individual parties, it not only serves to be a great motivating factor for the big power players in the story, but also facilitates new pieces of info to be released to us about them, albeit in subtle ways. There's a rather interesting and somewhat illuminating scene between Ace and his grandfather Garp, as Ace himself lies shackled in a maximum security holding cell. In that, Ace reveals that he's both aware of and resents his father, which is interesting as Luffy doesn't seem to hold any grudge.
Yeah, he sees Whitebeard as his dad, doesn't he?
Perhaps the most interesting aspect of this exchange comes when Garp tries to explain to Ace that his father had his reasons, which makes me question Garp's allegiance to the Navy. That's sort of a weird thing for someone in his position to say, I would think. He already shouldn't be where he is talking to Ace, but here we are. It's a really interesting turn of events, and we still have no idea who Luffy and Ace's mother was or is. And all of this serves pretty much to once again bring the situation to the forefront. All the Straw Hats are scattered across the world, and the war seems to be imminent. And what's more is, much later in the story, we learn what other detainees are held alongside Ace. There are 3 of note, and they are Shiryu and Jinbei. Croc, I think it goes without saying, I was already very familiar with, and it's cool to see him again.
Very
Apparently,
cool.
He's still very driven, and once he finds out about all the mobilization, he makes it known that he wants to kill Whitebeard too. Shiryu, on the other hand, is a new character who is described as being a savage.
He was one of the wardens, wasn't he?
Impel Down once upon a time, but was thrown in this cell for being far too ruthless, which is interesting, I think. And the final character I mentioned was Jinbei, the final warlord of the sea that we have not seen yet. That is also a fisherman that respects Whitebeard for bringing peace to his people.
Yeah.
He seems very interesting to me, and he too
He's
wants
class.
peace.
So good.
He even acknowledges shortcomings within his own civilization of people. And later on in the story, apologizes on behalf of Arlong, which is honestly kind of crazy to think about. And combining that with the fact that the Whitebeard pirates are making a move on the Navy, Kaido, another emperor of the sea, is making moves to take out Whitebeard. And while this is all happening, Shanks is trying to stop Kaido. I still don't know what Shanks' goal is here besides trying to maintain peace. Is there a reason why he's trying to maintain peace? I wonder if he might have more skin in the game than we might realize. But yeah, there are tons of things to consider.
There's a lot going on.
Aren't yet connecting to the immediate story, so I thought I'd throw them all into this section so that I wouldn't get bogged down in the details later on. I can't wait for all of this to go down. Something big is definitely happening. Luffy's recovery. This segment acts as the lull right before we head for the big climax, and I honestly find it
Bon Clay just like cheering him on.
Intended. One of the motivating factors Bon Clay was working towards alongside Luffy was the release of a particular character he called Eva, a so-called miracle worker. His words, not mine. However, in an act of
This was clever because they mentioned, didn't they, as a side story, that people disappear. There's a place within this Impel Down that like prisoners just disappear to and are never seen again. So this is the place.
Himself in the middle of a snowy wilderness, despite the power of Luffy keeping some wolves away in a very curious way. I guess that's his Haki power. Once again, he's getting better at that. But once Mr. Bon Clay awakes, we are introduced to a new area within the prison wherein a vast variety of freedom fighters and former prisoners find themselves. After creating a small civilization within these self-made crawl spaces between floors 5 and 6 of Impel Down. There, Bon meets Eva, the person who saved them and put Luffy into a potentially survivable state. But what makes this all the more interesting is that throughout the entire
It's based off of Tim Curry from Rocky Horror Picture Show and the character design.
Dwindling time before Ace's impending execution, acting as a countdown of sorts for us, the reader, which also creates its own tension and sense of urgency to add to the occasion. But by far the most compelling part of this section comes during the window of time within which Luffy's body is in agony, fighting off the effects of the poison.
Bon Clay just there the whole time, man.
He is screaming in unbelievable pain. But despite doing so all through the night, Bon Clay stays with him outside his door, cheering on his efforts to beat this thing. For 20 hours. Despite Bon Clay at the time thinking and believing that Luffy only had a 2% chance at the time of survival.
Third!
But in typical Luffy fashion, he beats the poison in
Hell
record
yes.
time, devours an absurd amount of food, and is ready to go. Well, not really. This emergency treatment required Luffy to take 10 years off of his life, which just makes me all sorts of anxious. And even after expelling all the poison from his body and eating an ungodly amount of food, he still is incredibly fatigued. However, once again, thankfully, Eva increased adrenaline. Only once it wears off in 24 hours, he will crash hard.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to that. But I think the takeaway from this scene is just how much of an awesome character and all-around great guy Bon Clay is.
Bon Clay's incredible. Bon Clay, man.
Get Ace out. We still have some time. Okay, they are too late.
Yeah.
Ace is already being escorted.
Yeah, this was like, what?
This section is my favorite part of the story and is by far and away the most dense. And I think of the many aspects
I think the whole point of this was to have an absolutely amazing moment where all these characters are freed. Gotta get them out of the prison, gotta have a reason for it.
See how the story progresses with these and interweaves them into the narrative.
Yes,
However,
number
despite
one.
arriving too late to spring his brother from prison, he still has the chance to grab him before they take him to Marine Ford. But they need muscle. They need more help than what they currently have in order to even get out of this underwater bunker alone. However, thankfully, the area they find themselves within isn't exactly short of talent.
Not at all. Crocodile's so cool, man. Ah, it's so cool!
I can't tell you how cool it was watching Croc fight alongside Luffy.
Yeah, man.
I friggin' love love how nonchalant he is pretty much about everything he does. Also, where does he get these cigars?
Who cares?
And while the epic action
Yeah, let's go!
as they barge their way through the various floors in the compound, Shiryu, the dangerous and corrupt jailer from before, gets the attention of one of the officers in the prison and convinces them to let him go, to let him help them to regain control of the facility. Naturally, they oblige, but okay. This bit is brilliant. So, you know the way Bon Clay and Luffy had their own little troubles to deal with for the last 20-some-odd hours? Well, in typical Oda fashion, both Mr. 3 and Buggy had their very own little adventure off-screen where they managed to sneak up to floor 2 using their combined powers and teamwork. And while on their way through the various levels, they have been freeing prisoners in an attempt to cause enough of a distraction to escape themselves. However, as they continue to free prisoners, Buggy manages to accumulate a massive following, which, again, is just super funny.
I loved it.
This is where something super interesting happens.
Yeah, Blackbeard turns up.
So, as it happens, despite all the warlords supposedly being ordered to be at Marine Ford, Blackbeard is missing when suddenly, as Luffy is holding off and trying to defeat one of the officers of the prison on level 4, out of nowhere cuts in Blackbeard.
It's like, what's going on?
Blackbeard pretty much fills Luffy in on what he's done to his brother, causing Luffy to land a massive hit on the pirate, leading Blackbeard to remark that he's stronger than he thought and that his Haki is stronger than it was last time too. Which means that Blackbeard can sense Haki and the strength of its users, despite folks like Hancock being taken aback when Luffy demonstrated his Haki power. This is interesting. But what makes this interesting to me is that becoming a warlord of the sea was important to Blackbeard before, yet coming here I would think means that he forfeits that title. So why is it okay or important?
Yeah, he's got a big plane.
In this instance. Perhaps it's something
Big
warlords
plane.
are privy to that others aren't, maybe, that he already saw and doesn't need to see anymore. Shiryu seems to be also in on it too. I mean, he did let Blackbeard slip right by him at the top floor. Regardless, something big is happening here, and Blackbeard says as much, stating that in a few hours they are going to, and I quote, put on a show that will shake the world.
And
with
God,
that,
do they.
he walks past the young pirate. He is not after Luffy in this instance. I have no idea what he's doing, but I am interested. As the story progresses through some amazing teamwork combining the powers of the Wax Fruit with Luffy's abilities for both defensive and offensive purposes, it created a stunning action sequence and a fantastic redemption moment for Mr. 3. But all is still not well, as despite reaching the top of Impel Down, and even after Jinbei uses his abilities to get them into the ship, they still have no means of escape, as once again, the massive gate won't open unless switched open from within the facility. This story, man, that's right. Bon Clay, the absolute mad lad, saves the friggin' day again by being just an absolute genius and a selfless person. I really can't undersell just how ridiculously fun this climax was.
Yeah, man, I felt so bad with him going. Yeah.
Ships to even whale sharks summoned by Jinbei, all the while having to think in the back of our heads that Blackbeard is after being taken out by this poison guy, which apparently is okay to him. What? And also the poison Magellan guy is on his way up to stop them in their tracks before they leave there and then now. It was a stunning masterclass in writing.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Impel Down's so good.
Sacrifices himself to
Bon
let them run
Clay.
free. And that's when we see this. There's not much time left. You know, before I started reading One Piece, I mentioned that one of the only aspects of the story that I knew about before diving in was the One Piece treasure itself. And like many of you, I would imagine, I was incredibly worried that the treasure would be something like the friends they made along the way or something.
Yeah.
Given the journey we've been on with the characters in this series, I almost wouldn't mind if it was. And that's how good Oda is. His story is so good, I actually feel like he's earned the ending of the friends they made along the way.
Yeah, I won't mind that either.
And I can already hear you typing down below, I know that isn't the One Piece treasure itself, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm very aware that Oda cleared that up himself a long time ago. But more importantly, this arc was not only a stellar adventure driven by emotion and tension unlike any I've ever read before, but it very much also served as a platform for Oda to show us all how ridiculously meticulous and careful with his storytelling he can be.
Yeah.
And often is. With very few plot points, encounters, and reveals happening just because Oda thought it looked cool, and even less are unearned. And with this adventure through Amazon Lily and Impel Down, two story arcs that hinge heavily on
Marine Ford's next.
and our dedication to keeping up with the secondary story thread in the hands of a lesser or even standard storyteller, the events I discussed in this video would not only have felt contrived, but also boring and lifeless. It's difficult to try to convey just how impossible these sort of arcs are or should have been to pull off. With
I mean, you've just got Luffy in.
Literally
There are you.
the vast majority of encounters, depending on the reader's dedication or willingness to accept new characters into the fold, Amazon Lily and Impel Down stand for me as monuments to the best manga story I've ever in my life read through. As some of you who follow me on Twitter might already know, I've been going at this whole YouTube thing pretty hard for the last 2 years straight. And while I love reading and writing for these One Piece videos, I think after my video next week, I'll need to take a break for a week or two. Nothing too long, just to recharge my batteries. I hope YouTube doesn't banish my channel into obscurity because of that, but
I don't think it has.
If it does, it would really mean a lot to me if you subscribed and hit the bell notification to make sure that didn't happen. And if you'd still like to hear from me or ask me any questions,
Follow him on Twitter. He does the polls and stuff for his future videos, and that's quite cool.
However, next week, as I said, I'll be tackling the big finish to the arc. Excited doesn't begin to describe.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Saga unfolds and concludes, and Lord knows I'm not ready emotionally, as so many of you have warned me about. But my hope is that once again, you can join me on this adventure. Well, that'll do it for this video. As always, I've been Totally Not Mark. I'll see you all next week, and thank you so much for watching.
Oh,
My
mate.
guess is that earthquakes are really so scary because you don't have any warning. It's the only thing besides a nuclear war that can really... 1 second you're living in a big beautiful city, and 10 seconds later it's flat.
Okay. Okay. I don't get it, but alright. Oh, mate, yeah. Impel Down is like totally up there. A Marine Ford! Oh. Didn't we get mentioned, or is it Marine Ford, that Luffy and Ace aren't actually biological brothers? Thought that was cool. Like, so then that throws things like, whoa, wait, what, as well. Like, it's clever, because it's like, it's not like, oh, then this isn't a thing. It's like, oh, there's more questions to be asked then. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to watch his review of Marine Ford. That'll be next week. It's going to be sick. It's going to be amazing. So, yeah. Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link is in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I have to help support the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys very much for that. And then thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below. Let me know what you discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, next time.